How do you pull off the Queen's Gambit and how do you respond to it? In 5 minutes, I'll teach you all you need to know about this popular opening and what to do if it's both accepted or declined. This is Flash with Legendary Tactics. This is one of the most popular openings in chess. If you've been watching Queen's Gambit on Netflix, then like me, you're probably wondering what it is and when to use it. So I'm going to show you how to execute, and if you stick around until the end of the video, I'll show you how to respond as the black side. So what's the purpose of the Queen's Gambit? Well, there's two main goals. The first is to take control of the center of the board, so it begins with a central attack. This is called a gambit, which in ancient Italian means to trip, because white sacrifices the c-pawn in order to gain a stronger overall position on the board, though often white will regain equilibrium before long. The secondary goal of this gambit is to get ahead in piece development, by which I mean getting your pieces mobilized faster than your opponent. So how do you execute this? Well, let's talk first about Queen's Gambit accepted. First, white moves the pawn just in front of the queen to d4. Black counters with pawn to d5. White will then answer with a pawn to c4. With a gambit, the opponent can either accept or decline the offer, so black has some options now. If they accept, then they can take c4, in which case you can protect d4 by moving pawn to e3, which opens up a lane for your bishop. This puts you in the favorable position of having two pawns right in the middle. Black also has the option of moving pawn to b5 to defend their pawn at c4. Your response would likely be to threaten him with pawn to a4, which is supported by your rook if they take you. What you're really hoping for right now is for the black to make the mistake of moving pawn to c6 to support b5. White then captures at b5, black responds by taking b5, and white springs the trap. The queen to f3 threatens their rook. This is where the fun begins. So, Queen's Gambit accepted will likely work out fairly well for you if it goes down this avenue. Let's roll it back to black with a pawn at c4 and your bishop threatening to attack. If he chooses not to defend that pawn, you will even up by taking it with your bishop, and you'll control the center. d4 is attacking both c and e5, so this evolution sets you up to castle on the king's side. The alternate scenario is that black declines, and many of the top level players will move the pawn from e7 to e6 to go for one in the center and to maintain solid control there. The downside is that their bishop on c8 is less mobile. Your response will likely be to develop knight b1 to c3. Black will often respond with their knight g1 to f6. Ideally, you want to get your dark side bishop to g5 to put pressure on his knight in f6. As white, you're fortunate to have the momentum with all of these scenarios. There are many responses to all of these plays, so we can't possibly get into all of them since this video is meant to just get you into the basics. However, if you notice that someone has played the Queen's Gambit against you, then you really need to know how to defend that. So this is how to counter or how to play as black. As the black player, if you see the Queen's Gambit opening against you and you decide to respond with a pawn to d5, if you accept the gambit, it's fairly risky for you. Often playing aggressive might get you out of the bind, but it is a risk. If you want to take this on and white moves pawn to e4, I suggest that you respond with pawn to e5. This opens up a potential queen for queen trade, which accelerates your development. The better response, though, is to decline the gambit with a pawn to e6. Garry Kasparov is famous for declining this offer. This is called the semi-Slav. They likely respond with knight to f3. You reply with knight to g6. Both of you are getting your knights developed, and this gets your dark side bishop mobile, and you don't lose control of the center. Another defense that black players use with the Queen's Gambit declined is called the Slav Defense, and this is by moving your c7 pawn to c6. This keeps your light square bishop mobile and defends your d5 pawn. All of this sounds very complicated, and the game will develop naturally on its own, but at least if you see this and recognize it, you'll know what you're up against. Remember that your overall goal is to have your pawns controlling the middle of the board. Your other goal is to develop pieces faster than your opponent. The beauty of this game is that no matter what play you make, there's always another play that can counter it, so don't be too inflexible with your responses. If you've learned something in this video, please consider moving your queen onto the like button. For more strategy tips and hints, join us by checking the subscribe button. We've got plenty of other videos out there with all kinds of hints and tips on every game you can imagine. Thanks so much for your time.